Hello, and welcome to the Language of Mindfulness podcast. This is a podcast for people who want to have more great conversations in your life. You want to connect, you want to speak authentically, and you want to listen deeply. This is how to do it, and it's the real deal. So why should you listen to the Language of Mindfulness? Because in every episode, I'm going to give you tips and guidance I've learned in my pretty extensive career of coaching and practice from the best and brightest in the field of interpersonal communications, public speaking, meditation, group leadership, and somatic psychology. And we're going to have interviews with some amazing people about their groundbreaking work. It's my goal to give actionable and uncommon tips and advice in every episode that you can implement right away. So subscribe or follow now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you don't listen, you're going to miss some great stuff that you just won't hear anywhere else. I'm your host, Brett Hill, and welcome to the Language of Mindfulness. Hello and welcome to the Language of Mindfulness podcast. It's been a little bit since I did my last session, my last podcast. I've been just screaming busy with a project called The Future is Mindful. So you can check it out at thefutureismindful.com. And oh my God, there's a story to tell around this. We had a friend of mine and I decided we were doing this training together for to get certified as mindful facilitation coaches for whatever the heck that means. But we were doing it with this organization called the Institute for Organizational Mindfulness. I'm also the podcast host for the Organizational Mindfulness podcast. And so I wound up knowing about this certification. And they said, hey, why don't you come and join the first group that goes through this new certification training. So I did. And in it, I met Mark Montalbaum, who is a great guy who is the founder of a startup called Mindful Text. Mindful Text is like you subscribe to the service and you get these texts to kind of help you with your mindfulness practice. And it's really a great project and startup he's got going there. Well, I started getting this education through this training and also through Sounds True because I was also in their Inner MBA program. And I started to learn about all the stuff that's going on in organizations around adopting mindfulness. And there's and it's just not known how much stuff is going on there. There is an incredible amount of activity going on in adoption of mindfulness at the organizational level. Now, a lot of my work at the Language of Mindfulness and doing coaching one-on-one is with helping people learn to be more present so that they can connect to what I call your authentic, embodied authority, and then learn to speak from that place and act from that place. And your world's a lot better. Your relationships go better, your conversations go better, the outcomes go better, and it's not just your personal relationships, it's also your business relationships and the people you work with. So it's great for anyone in any context where you're using your voice and it matters, right? And that's pretty much all the time. I get really kind of, if I get upset, it's around people not giving themselves credit for the power that words have, or the powers that your words can have. They can be exceptionally moving, connecting, or disconnecting, and disempowering. You get to choose. That's the cool thing, right? So all of my work is centered around, are you choosing? Are you literally, thinking, you're choosing because you have the thought, this is the way I want to come across now, and I'm going to speak authentically and land in my truth and use my voice in a way that is expressing something deeper than the words themselves. So, for example, someone walks in the room and they're upset, and I like this person, right? So they go, oh man, Brett, I'm really unhappy blah, 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 with this, and you should have been, all right, great, I can be reactive. But if I'm take a breath and relax as best I can, which is going to be dependent on how many other times you've taken a breath and relaxed when you're not under stress. Remember, here's the catchphrase, Write this down, carry it around. If you don't practice mindfulness when you're not under stress, it won't be available to you when you are. Another way I say that is, if you want to be mindful under stress, you have to practice when you're not. So someone walks in the room, I'm under stress because they're jumping on me. I take a breath. Okay. I'm noticing that every atom in my body wants to be reactive. And trust me, the way I roll, you might not believe it, but yeah, that's what's happened. It's like, oh my God, I want to snap back. But I'm not going to do that because I'm going to make a choice. And that choice is going to help me have a better impact. And have a better outcome. Now remember I said I cared about this person. So I'm going to take advantage of one of the sayings you may have heard. People don't care what you know until they know that you care, right? So rather than go, oh no, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? I'm not wrong. Defending yourself or coming back out to them and go, well, you shouldn't be upset, instead of attacking them. And also, instead of going to a story where I can say, oh, tell me more, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly legit response. I can say, wow, I can connect with the feeling. It's what I call connecting with the limbic state, the feeling state of the person. I'm noticing they're upset and going, wow, this has really upset you, huh? Yeah, it did. And you can feel them in their own acknowledgement in that moment. Now you're aligned, right? Because you're saying, yeah, I noticed their feelings. I'm acknowledging their feelings. And yes, it did. I got an absolute big confirmation. Now, instead of being the bad guy, I'm the guy who's seeing their anger, acknowledging their anger. And we have this moment there of agreement, wholehearted agreement. I see it. I think you're angry, right? Yes, I am. Right. Okay, great. So, I don't like it. This doesn't feel good to me because I care about this relationship. I care about you. So let's see what happened here. What can I do? Now, if I name the fact that I care, and it's a fact that has to be authentic, and you feel it, you're feeling you're caring. You're important to me, and I don't want this to happen. Let's see what we can do. Now you can say, tell me what's going on. Well, okay, now you're getting story, you're getting whatever. And it's all good, but the point is now you have an opportunity to create rapport. You've created some rapport through mindful connection, mindful expression. Now, you can't do that with everybody, granted. You can't do that with just random folk. Although if you're like me, you care about random folk. I don't often lead with that. But I tell you what I will do with random folk, and it comes across a little bit unusual at times, but it's what's true for me. If I have a rule, well, I would say a rule, but a pretty firm guard line. If I really like somebody, you meet somebody, you just like them, you get along and it's great. And there's just a rapport there. When I notice that, I'll name it. I have a policy. It says I have a thing where when I meet people that I really like, I let you know. I don't know you very well, but I just got to say, I like you. I like the way this goes. Some people receive that really warmly. Some people don't know what to do with it. But, hey, I'm being real. It's what's true for me. So, obviously, you can't throw that out every time it happens. But be open to exploring. So, we're talking about, creating connection, creating rapport with people. And taking all this all the way back to what's going on in business with The Future is Mindful. I was learning about all the activity that's going on with mindfulness adoption the business adoption of mindfulness because of this great resignation, which you've probably heard of. And so it's like people are going, I want a job that I feel good about myself being in. I don't want a job where they tell me to take care of myself so that I can do more crappy work or I can continue to work for a crappy place. I want a job that cares enough about people that it gives me the resources that I need, that it encourages me to be a better version of myself, that it helps me engage with other people in a meaningful way, and that we can do meaningful work together. Now, what's not to like, right? So why wouldn't you want that if it's available? And it can be. There's no reason that almost any job on the planet, consider if in an ethical framework, and there are a lot of them. I know some of you are going, yeah, right, find me a job in ethical framework. Well, there are actually quite a few. And not that they're all perfect, of course, by any stretch of the imagination. There are plenty that are problemated. And people are going, I don't want problemated. I want something that is, I require something that is better. So we're reaching a place as a culture, and this is a big deal, where the people are saying, after COVID, I'm not entirely sure why you should be requiring me to show up 5 days a week, 10 hours a day and sit in a box in a room full of people and not give us the resources that we need and create these toxic work environments where we feel bad about each other, the work, and as a result, we're taking that home with us, and it's toxifying our lives, right? We don't need that. There's enough junk in the world. So as a result of that, plus I think there's also enough people, there seems to be what I would almost call a critical mass, or the beginning of a critical mass of people in these organizations, in management and above, who are themselves mindful folk or spiritual and not religious, or whatever you want to say. And not only are they wanting that for themselves, they are trying to create that in their spheres of influence. In large organizations, I'm talking about big time stuff here: Amazon, Google, Ernst & Young, Aetna, Ford, Microsoft, Starbucks, Dell Computers. There's a gigantic list of these companies, and these people have non-trivial investments. And I'm not talking about one or two people sitting around going, let's start a special interest group and see who shows up, although some of it starts that way. But rather, big investments in well-being that is not superficial. Because it's easy to go, oh yeah, they're just trying to make it easy. They're just trying to help people deal better with these toxic environments. And I would say the exact opposite of that is true, that once you become more mindful and present, you have less tolerance for toxic environments. And because you're aware of the impact it's having, you become more resilient, but you can't stay resilient in a continuously stressed context. That's how you become more resilient. It takes you more energy to be stressed whenever you're resilient. More resilience literally means you have more capacity before you become stressed, and you recover faster after you are. But you cannot stay in a constant state of stress and remain resilient. You just can't. The nervous system just doesn't work that way. However resilient you are, it's a finite amount. Some people more than others. Assuming you're not like a Buddha or something, and I haven't met one yet. So, I'm doing Sounds True Inner MBA. I'm doing this work with Institute for Organizational Mindfulness. And I'm meeting all of these people that are involved in a big way with organizational mindfulness. And this guy I met, Mark Bonelbaum, and I were chatting. And one of the things about being in the mindful business, so to speak, is you meet a lot of people who are, quote unquote, in business, but not a lot of people that can get things done. And I don't mean to put down people at all. I'm just trying to say there's a skill set that you need to spin up a business. And there's a lot of mindful people who are really, really, really good at being mindful. And they're really great people, and I wish them the best. But I wouldn't want them to be the founder of a startup, because they just don't have the skills. And they'd be perfect for being someone who can help you or others or themselves get mindful and be mindful. Not so perfect for What's the marketing plan? What's the pricing point? How do you get this stuff done? How do you roll this out? How do you get people on your mailing list? The whole ball of wax. Well, here, this guy, I have a long, complicated background in business, so I won't get into all that here, but I've done a few things because, I'm an old guy, so I've done a few things. And Mark, who's a lot younger, but has already done a few startups and was really smart. And so we just kind of got along. We just kind of clicked, and we were looking at each other, and we had this thought, look, what if what is happening is what we think is happening, that there's all this activity at the organizational level, and that means these organizations are going to be looking for resources. They're trying to find a way to plug in projects and programs and find resources to become more mindful or implement more mindfulness in their organizations. And I don't mean just get people to sign up for Headspace and call it a day. I'm talking about embedding mindful structures into the architecture of your organization. That's a whole different thing, man. We're not talking about putting a meditation room on the floor, right? We're talking about designing your meetings in a way where they start with a pause. We're talking about having respect for more silence. We're talking about encouraging people to be more thoughtful and skillful in the way that they are present with each other. As a corporate culture, as a corporate value, that's going to have dramatic impact all the way through the organization, up and down. So we're going, what are we going to do? If this is actually happening, then our guess is that people don't know about this. And I'm listening to all these great speakers at the Inner MBA, and then also all this work that Michael Foster at the Institute for Organizational Mindfulness, their webinars, and I had also been doing these webcasts or podcasts for them where I was interviewing, some pretty big names in mindfulness. Not that I'm all that, but Mike got me these interviews with Diana Winston and Dr. Ron Siegel, Sharon Salzberg, and other famous names in mindfulness, and talking to them about what's going on in organizations. And it's off the graph. People just don't know. And so Mark and I are going, well, people just don't know. Seems to me like this conversation needs to be happening more. People need to find out. So we said, well, if this is true, we'll just invite some people. Let's just say we're going to have a conference on it. And Mark was great. He came up with the future is mindful. Brilliant. And so I'm all in. I go, hey, that's great. We'll do it. Well, so we created a little company called The Future is Mindful. And we invited about 10 or 11 really big name speakers, including Tammy Simon, CEO of Founds True, Brian Welch, the CEO of Mindfulness, the magazine and the website. Not to mention Mike Foster, CEO and founder of the Institute for Organizational Mindfulness. Scott Shute, who was the vice president at LinkedIn and in charge of their mindfulness programs, and now is off on his own doing his own projects and the author of a book called Full Body Yes. Diana Winston, director of the Institute, it's called the Mindfulness Awareness Research Institute, MARC, they call it, at UCLA, and amazing author and just a sweetheart of a person, and many others, just really big. I mean, to me, these guys are like big names because I'm not. I have a podcast and a website and some other stuff, but in terms of like being whatever you call my maiden names, these people are pretty well known. And the most remarkable thing happened. Mark, we couldn't believe it. Every single one of them said yes. Like, wait, what? What? They all said yes. And we're like, oh my God, we have to put on a conference. So suddenly we're in the conference promotion business. And we did. We produced this conference. It happened March 28th and 29th. And it was amazing. We had like 600 people come through. It was free to attend. And every single one of those speakers did a presentation. I got to do one too. After all, I thought, well, it's my conference. I'm going to give myself a slot. That's like I had one colleague go, God, look at these speakers, man. Diana Winston, Tammy Simon, Scott Shute, Brett Hill. Wait, Brett, how did you get a spot there? And I'm going, well, I kind of wrote myself in. So, yeah. And so that's what I've been doing the last month or so, and why the podcast is a little late. The key message here is there's a lot happening in the field of organizational adoption of mindfulness, and we're turning a corner. A corner is being turned, and it's an important one, and it has to do with cultural norms, and this is so important. The culture is beginning to gel around the notion that we need to be kinder, we need to be gentler, we need to be more considerate, and that is the way to sustainability, because we can't continue to extract resources from people and the planet for short-term gain indefinitely. It's unsustainable. It doesn't work. It drives people crazy, and it's wrecking the environment. In this Inner MBA, they have this thing called Conscious CEO series. And one of the women who there said it beautifully. I thought this was brilliant. She said, I have a belief that mindful people do less harm. And I thought, oh my God, I just love it when things are simple and powerful. And I thought, that's just it. That's it, exactly. Mindful people do less harm. And that's what we need. We need more mindful people. We need more mindfulness in our lives so we can have less harm. And beyond that, we can actually begin to heal more by being a force within your own life for unification, for bringing in your disparate parts, the parts of you that are in conflict, helping to embrace them all as just parts and not really who you are. That who you are is much bigger than that. That you are the foundation, you're the container for all the conflict in your own life, in a way, and all the harmony in your own life. Now, what am I talking about? What I mean is, like, I've talked about this before. Learning to be openly accept your experience, whether good or bad. One of the interviews I mentioned, Dr. Ron Siegel, he said this. He said that, I'm paraphrasing, but this is the essence of it. The key to transformation, what causes people to change the fastest, turns out to be open-hearted acceptance of your experience, whether good or bad. And, a giant light bulb went off for me. Because when you teach mindfulness, you go to MBSR, you go to any other. The first thing they do is that they have you start working on breathing, breathing and attention practice. Control your attention, practice your attention. Not control, but rehearse coming back to focused awareness. Rehearse coming back to focused awareness over and over and over again so that you build this neurological muscle to interrupt the default mode network so that you become able to be at choice. And you do this enough times, when you're not under stress, someone walks in the room and starts yelling at you, you've got this neurology worked out where you can take a breath, you can center, and you have a moment in which you can choose to not be reactive. That choice is freedom. Viktor Frankl said between stimulus and response, there is a space. He didn't say this, but I'm inserting an editorial. That space can be teensy tiny or it can be large. If it's teensy tiny, you might not have enough of an opportunity to inject a choice. Through your mindfulness practice, you make that space bigger. The next part is, in that space is the freedom to choose. Right? In that space is the freedom to choose. So it's like, that's the power that you have when you become mindful is you have the freedom. I did another podcast on this earlier in my podcast section. Mindfulness is really about freedom. It's about having the freedom to make a choice. How do you know? Because you're aware of making a choice. When you go to the restaurant and they show you a menu and you choose something off the menu, someone come back to you later and say, did you actually make a choice? Well, yeah, I did. I opened it up and you're conscious. You're aware you made a choice. Someone walks to the room, they start yelling at you, and you say something. Someone asks you later, did you really make a choice? Well, did you? Did you choose off the menu of things to say, what to say? Were you aware that, well, if I say this, then maybe it goes this way. If I say this, then maybe it goes this way. Or, screw it, I'm just going to be reactive now. Because if you didn't have that experience, you didn't make a choice. You just reacted automatically. And people spend their entire lives like that. But now the culture's coming to a place where we're saying, we can't live like that. We cannot be that way and create the life that you want to have. And it starts with you. Whoever you are listening to this, it starts with you. You personally have to decide that you would rather have a life where you get to be a choice rather than be reactive to your circumstances. Now, I know some people are going, and rightly so, hey, I'm having really crap years, life, day, whatever. I don't have the privilege of being mindful. And I'm not going to dispute that, but I am going to say that under whatever circumstances you're having mindfulness as your ally is going to improve your situation dramatically. Now, it's not going to make you rich. It's not going to get you out of debt. It's not going to cause you to not be the victim that maybe someone made you or the circumstances happened to you if you're ill. It's not going to make you well. It is, however, going to change your experience of your moment and improve it. So the question is, what kind of moment would you rather have? Would you rather have a moment that is better? And if you're saying, well, yeah, I would, but I can't change the fact that I'm about to be evicted or that I lost my job. That's true. You can't change it. Or maybe you can't change it. So remember, the definition is acceptance of your experience, whether good or bad. So I'm not saying approval. I can't tell you how many times I have to say this, but I feel like I can just hear you're saying I have to make it okay. No. It's not that it's okay. It's just that it is true. And being in resistance to that truth is not helping your circumstances. It's not helping your moment. This is straight up Eckhart Tolle stuff, or Buddhist stuff, right? Attachment to an outcome, attachment to a reality you would rather be having that isn't here, is the very definition of suffering. I can't be happy looking outside at this beautiful sunset. I can't really be happy because I'm about to go bankrupt. How do those two things work together? The sunset is beautiful, but you can't see it because you're about to go bankrupt. How does not seeing the beauty that's right in front of your face help your situation? It doesn't. And rather, wouldn't your moment be improved if you could enjoy the beauty that's right there? Wouldn't that be a better moment? Yes, is the answer. It doesn't change the fact that you might be about to go bankrupt. It doesn't change it. But neither does not enjoying the beauty. That doesn't change it either. So which would you prefer? Well, one big heaping helping of beauty, please. Right? Now, I'm using this bankruptcy analogy on purpose, because this is an Eckhart Tolle story, which I like. He's like, you're sitting in the office, they've handed you the papers, you're about to go bankrupt. You're hearing the ticking of the clock on the wall. He takes it really far, right? They hand you the papers. You put your pen on the paper. You hear he literally says, you hear the scritch of the sound on the paper. Nothing has changed. Now you're bankrupt, but nothing in your moment has changed. Now, I'm not trying to say you need to be non-reactive Buddha to everything in life. I am trying to say that we are generally way more attached to our preferences for what we don't have, our attachments to what we don't have, to the outcome that we wish was happening, than we are to having the moment, the beauty of the moment. And you're going, well, this moment is beautiful. There's beauty everywhere. You just have to notice it, right? There's beauty everywhere. You just have to notice it. There's beauty in a child's face. There's beauty in an animal's walk. There's beauty in music. There's beauty in art. There's beauty in the clouds. There's beauty in the sky. There's beauty in a flower. There's beauty in a voice. There's beauty in a poem. There's beauty in a color. There's beauty in a thought. There's beauty everywhere. You can walk around in a state of wonderment and entranced by beauty. And that wouldn't be a bad way to go. In fact, a lot of yogis actually do that. I'm not a fan of that particularly because I've chosen the one where I have a body, I'm connected to the earth, and I have to deal with the fact of this physical manifestation. But I don't want to make it any more... That doesn't mean it's necessary to suffer more just because of that, right? Another way I think about this is, let's say that you had a terrible accident and you broke your leg. You lost your leg. Your leg was cut off, completely cut off. And you wake up in the hospital. You got no leg. And you did before. Maybe you were a basketball player. Maybe you were a track star. Maybe you were a ballet dancer. Maybe you just loved to dance at the raves all night. And it was important to you. Legs are pretty cool to have. And for those of you that do, you know. Well, actually, you kind of don't because you forget, right? Until you get something hurts and you don't remember. So suddenly it happens. You lose a leg. All right, so now you are someone who has lost a leg. And the question isn't, should I have lost that leg? Am I a victim? Those could be questions in the sense of like, maybe it shouldn't have happened to you. Maybe someone hit you in a car wreck. Maybe you truly are a legitimate victim. Maybe it was through your own negligence. Maybe it was through someone else's. Maybe it was just a freak accident. But the point is, you lost your leg. Now, are you then going to, from this moment forward then, are you going to be someone who's going, I can't stand it that I should have my leg and it sucks that I don't, and my world is crap and it can never be great again because I haven't got both legs. And, you would be legitimately unhappy about that. You have a case, right? That's the thing about these kinds of gripes. They're legit. And some of them are very, very legit. I have dark skin and I'm getting treated badly because of it. That could be a completely legit, and often is completely, particularly this culture, absolutely legit complaint. There are many, many others. Too short, too tall, too big, too fat, wrong skin color, not smart enough, not fat enough, not aggressive. I said not fat enough, not fast enough, aggressive enough for men, not tough enough. You got to win. You got to be boy, you can hear the anger in my voice with that, right? Because I grew up in Oklahoma, and there was a lot of men. You got to be cowboy. You've got to be the star. You've got to persevere. And embedded in all this was you have to be willing to hurt people. And if you weren't willing to hurt people, well, then you were a pussy. And you know what happens when you're a pussy? You get the crap beat out of you. And then that's what happened to me. I wasn't a pussy. I was just sensitive. I was sensitive. So, since grew up too sensitive in an insensitive world. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are like that. And so I'm talking to you. To the people who are refusing to be anything other than what they are, because you're pretty amazing. You're pretty awesome. Not pretty, you are awesome. Sensitive men, I love sensitive men. I love sensitive women too. I love sensitive people. Let's just forget the men and women thing. I'm sensitive people, because who knows these days, right? I certainly don't. And I'm not here to say what's true about that, but I am here to say sensitivity is important, and it's completely, what I want to say, it's like disrespected. Our nervous systems are completely disrespected in this culture, and so there's a lot of wounded folk. That's a truth. If that's you, if you're hearing this and you go, yeah, that's me, I totally get that. So how do you then choose to live your life as someone who is way more sensitive than the culture, than is healthy in this culture? Because that's actually completely flip. The culture isn't healthy. You're fine. So let me just reframe that, right? It's the culture that's the problem, not you. Culture has lost its way in terms of what's healthy. There's just way too much stimulation, way too much rudeness and aggressiveness, and people just being mean and insensitive to each other. And we're just supposed to bear it. No. I say no. I say yes to that's the truth. I say no to that's okay. Now, I can't make it different, but I can make me different. And I can require of the people that I interact with that we treat each other respectfully. And hope that we can see in each other the truth of who we are. And you can't do that until you can see the truth of who you are. And that's why it's so important that you do the work. That you really get real with what is true for you. And the outer layer can be pretty harsh. Like there's a lot of anger and unexpressed, unintegrated stuff. But you hang in with it and you just go deeper and deeper. It gets better. You get real with your experience. Now remember, I was using the analogy of the leg, right? So are you going to be someone who, the truth of my experience is, I am pissed that I lost my leg. And it sucks that I don't have this. Now again, this is just a metaphor for me. For some people, they're living this truth, or worse. It sucks that I don't have this anymore. And I really, 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 really miss it. I'm working myself up. I'm such a somatic guy. I'm like feeling it as if it has actually happened to me. And it didn't, right? But there's a field of suffering that I tap into if I go too far with this. The truth of it is I'm not going to have it. And so now the question is, yes, it's true I don't have it. Yes, it's true I'm pissed off about it. Now, who am I going to be? Is there beauty in the world? Do I want to see it? Do I want to feel it? Can I love? Can I be loved? Can I write beautiful poetry? Can I sing beautiful songs? If I can't do those things, can I enjoy other people doing them? Can I still have tender moments? Can I still eat amazing food? Can I just be happy to have a breath of air? And amazing eyes with which to see the world, and ears that can hear so well. I'm having a hard time with this because my ears don't hear so well, but nevertheless, the beauty of sound for those of you who can enjoy that, the beauty of touch, whatever sense is working for you, it's an incredible gift. Are you going to let the fact, and this a metaphor, that you don't have the leg, so whatever it is you don't have that you want, are you going to let that take away all the other magnificence that's there for you? And I would like to make the case that you don't need to do that, and that your life would be better off if you don't, and that you would be better off if you don't. And because you're better off, everybody you meet is having a better experience of you. And if you really get plugged into the truth of your experience in the moment, which is pretty special, pretty lit when you go way down in there. I'm talking about the agitated level. Talking about when you shake up your snow globe of your life and you're sitting in the hurricane and you say, what's the truth of my experience? Well, I'm sitting in a blizzard. It's crazy, chaotic here. It's like, I don't want to be in touch with it. Of course you don't. That's why people don't do mindfulness. They get in touch with what's really going on. They go, this is nuts in here. But if you persist, you take a breath, it begins to settle. And the scene of your inner world becomes to come more clear. And pretty soon, it's a pretty cool scene. Oh yeah, I am someone who can have blizzards and snowstorms, and I can also have these amazing scenes. Now, which is true? Which is more true? The scenes, the static that obscures your experience is transient. It calms down if you give it a chance. If you don't believe me, go take your ass out in the woods and sit there for a week. You'll either drive yourself crazy because you don't have your phone, or you'll calm down. Which would you prefer? You give yourself some time. You unplug a little bit. Your nervous system will calm. It can't help it. This is neurology we're talking about. There are some other things you can do. You don't have to be that extreme. Box breathing. If you're really under stress, look up box breathing. Or you can do the simple stuff. Practice a basic mindfulness meditation. I've got them on my website, languageofmindfulness.com. They're all over the place. If you do this work, the scenery in your snow globe will appear or be more apparent. And you'll begin to realize you are not the chaos. The chaos is simply happening in you. It isn't you. It's just a happen. And then you can say, like I said, you said, yes, in this case, that chaos, that's your broken leg. That's the leg you lost. I am someone who's experiencing chaos. That's not who I am. It's just what's happening now. Or go back to the leg. I'm someone who lost their leg. I am not that leg. I am just someone who that has happened to. I am someone who's been abused in life. I'm someone who's been too sensitive for this culture. That's just who I am. You have the magnificent gift of incredible sensitivities and the burden of these incredible sensitivities in an insensitive world. So who are you going to be? You're going to choose to let those sensitivities be oppressive? Or you can wire them up to the magnificence of the majesty of nature, of love, of connection, and let that exquisite, rich experience of connectedness inform you about who you are, about who we are, about our common humanity, and for some, our divinity. And whenever you land in that place and you look out on the world and you see your confusion, you see your broken leg, your missing leg, you see the abuse that you've had, and you see the richness that you've had, and you see the wins that you had, the victories that you've had, and your talents, and the celebrations that you've had, and the moments, big and small, all of it. The way that you've persevered, because if you're hearing this right now, you persevered. And when you drop down into what do you know is true about you, about your world, about life, you can find something that's always been so from the moment you were born. I care about people. I love to know how things work. When I hear music, I light up. I always have. I'm just naming some things that might be true. I love animals with all of my heart. When I hear a voice that sings, something in me sings. I don't know why, but whenever I touch things, it's special. I feel something special whenever I touch objects or people or animals. Some people are really wired into their tactile senses like that. I'm just trying to name things that could be true. What is true for you? I always care about what is right. I care about justice. I care about beauty. I care about freedom. I care about health. Something in me always wanted to help other people. What is it? What is the truth for you? Because whenever you really, really land in that and you know that, it cannot be taken away. Because it is you. It's at the core of you. That's what I mean when I say learning to speak and act from your embodied authority. Nothing could be more authoritative than you speaking and acting out from what is fundamentally, absolutely true for you. I've always been connected to the divine, to the spirit within, to the love that binds us all. Always been connected to the mystery of the universe. So what is it? What is it for you? And whenever you name that, there won't be, well, I wonder if that's true. There will be an absolute full body yes. Yeah, that's right. That's always been true. It's just not even a question. And nobody can walk in the room and say, well, Brett, you know what? I just don't think you're you're just a guy who's not really interested in finding out how things really work. If someone said that to me, I'd go, wow, okay. Because I know that's exactly who I am. I love and have always loved understanding how things really work. That's why I spent a lifetime learning. How do I work? How does my own brain work? How does my own neurology work? How does my own sensitivity and intuition and connection to the meta? How does all that really work? Deeply, deeply fascinated, and not in a trivial way. I spent many, many, many years deeply going after that in schools and spiritual communities and practices, esoteric practices of many sorts. And I learned a few things. I had some great teachers. And so I'm here to say, what is that for you? And whenever you really, really land in that and let it and acknowledge that as you, re-identify as that truth, not the one that someone told you, like you're never enough, or you can't be enough, or you're too that, or you're too something, but not that. That's someone else's idea about how you fit in this world that is already unhealthy. Instead, what is true for you? You know what? I am a deeply sensitive person, and that's just who I am, and I'm not sorry for that. It sucks that I live in a world that I have to be especially protective of my senses. But that's the world that I live in, and it's necessary for me to respect and honor that. And when you do that, you respect and honor yourself, and then a miraculous thing begins to happen. The world starts to have less of an impact on you because you have landed in your truth. And you don't have to defend it anymore. Suddenly there's a boundary there. Someone else's problem, and they're radiating this negative vibe or whatever, and you're picking up on it. You realize that's their vibe, not yours. And you can be at choice as to whether or not you leave it over there or you pick it up and resonate with it, because you begin to have some authority over your own nervous system. It's not like you have control, like, I'm going to insist it's this way or I'm going to reject you. No, you accept the fact that they're that way. You don't push it away. You just respect. You stay in your own skin, as they might say. In psychotherapy, they say staying in your seat. You stay in your seat of your own sensitivity. It's like, I'm experiencing this negative thing over here, and I don't want to experience that. It's having this impact on me. You become very mindful of the impact. I'm feeling myself getting agitated. All right, I'm going to have to change the vibe or leave the scene. And if you can't, because you're, in a relationship or close proximity, you can't do that. You do the best you can. You get the resources that you can. You practice the self-care as best that you can. That's the best that you can do. You find people who can support you. But it's not you. It's not your problem. It's not about, I don't want to say it's not about you. What I want to say is you're not the problem. The problem is your relationship to the problem. That might sound esoteric, but it's really, really important. So, my friends, take a breath. What is really true for you? Who are you? What have you known about yourself that is so, that has always been so? Let that be your ground. It's undeniable. Someone doesn't believe it, it doesn't change it. That's how you know it's true, right? It's not a belief. It's an effect of your soul experience. I don't believe I'm a sensitive person. I know I am. Brett, you're really insensitive. Oh, well, I may have had an insensitive moment. I certainly have, many of them, but I am not an insensitive person. And that's not a matter of debate for me. So I don't question myself if someone says that. I question how is it that they came to that conclusion. Because I know what's true. For me. And I know in many ways, this is going to sound a little weird, I know really, in many ways what's true for you too. How can that be? Because you have a nervous system just like I do. You're a human being on the planet just like me. If you hold your breath, you're going to want to breathe. We all have an incredible amount of common experience. Incredible, vast amounts. And when we live and we act from a place of what we have in common, honoring that And then also respecting the fact that we have vast differences. Ones that I can't really know because I didn't experience them. And making room for the truth of what I don't know can be more important in many ways than what I do know. Really, really, really respecting that. But in the end, it's really landing in a place of loving presence. Because whenever you really get clear about who you are, or clearer, and you create this place where you're not reactive, what you do is you give space for intuition to arise, for connection to arise, authentic empathy to arise, authentic curiosity to arise. All the good things that we want with each other. And isn't that what we need more than ever right now? So do that. Do it. Give that gift to yourself. Get real with the work of being present, accepting your truth, both good and bad, open. And once again, doesn't mean I'm okay. Like I said about missing my leg. I'm not trying to say that was a good thing. If I, in that story, you're not going to go, oh, it's perfectly fine that happened. No, it sucks that happened. But wishing it were different for the rest of my life and being pissed off about it is not going to be a great place to be for the rest of my life. So again, acceptance of your circumstances gives you the authority, the power, the possibility of shifting your relationship to it so that you can take effective action, as effective as you can possibly take. So much, much better outcomes as a result. And a much better life. And as you improve the quality of your life, you're going to find that people respond to you better or differently. Suddenly, you become more mindful and present. And people experience you differently. And it's pretty great. Because suddenly you can be a model. And you don't set out to be that way. It's just that when you encounter people that are really integrated and whole and in a place of loving presence. Just like someone who walks in the room and is really pissed off and angry and pissing vinegar and pissing off everybody that they meet has a negative effect, like pouring poison on everything. And when they leave the room, that shit is still in the air. And people are out having a bad day because they encountered that. Just because in the same way, when you're a loving presence, you're elevating your world. People come into contact with you and they feel better. And you didn't have to do anything except be you. And that's the beauty of it, right? When you get to a place where you're just landing in your simple, I just want to be who I am, uncomplicated and present. And this loving presence can arrive that doesn't insist on, you have to do it my way, or it's not good, or it has to do this, or it has to be according to some dogma. No, it's just very, very simple. Caring that isn't personal. It kind of is personal, but it's not personal. It's kind of hard to describe. It's like you want the best for that particular person, but you want the best for every particular person. Kind of tricky that way. And then you become a force in the planet that is like a good thing. And when we have enough of that in the world, things shift. And now I've come full circle. Remember I said we're kind of reaching a nexus. We're kind of reaching a place where there's a critical mass. I think it's happening. We're reaching a place where there's enough people. And I'm a pretty skeptical guy. If you told me that just walking on the street, I'd go, what? That's crazy. That's not happening. Look at all the shit in the world. But if you look at what's happening in organizations, there is something definitely happening that has never happened before. This is entirely new. So, what's going on here? It's got my attention. It really, really does. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I definitely could be wrong. But I don't think I am. I think something really different is happening, and it has an opportunity. So it's like the garden has started to grow, and it has the power to become an entirely new thing. Let's hope that it does. And I'm inviting you to do your part. Do your part. And then the world will be a better place for you, for our kids, their grandkids, great-grandkids, for centuries to come. And we have to be thinking like that, centuries to come. All right. This has been a long, rambling podcast, but I've had a lot to say. If you like this, let me know. I don't hear enough from people who might listen to this. You can write me at Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at languageofmindfulness.com. Sorry for the long name, but that's what it is. Languageofmindfulness.com. You can see the website, languageofmindfulness.com. And I'm happy to meet with anyone for 30 minutes, an hour, and talk. I am a coach or teacher, whatever you prefer. And I would be a privilege for me to be able to at least just, hey, let's chat. And if you wanted to do some work together, that'd be great. And if you didn't, that'd be great too. Also, look out at the website, thefutureismindful.com. Wow. What incredible speakers we had. Join the community there. Keep in touch. There are some free webinars on the site. And once again, I'm putting you on a bit of a challenge. Do the work. Be a force for presence and grace in the world. And starts the journey within. Blessings to you. So that's a wrap on today's edition of the Language of Mindfulness podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. If so, please leave us a review on iTunes and follow along on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. We'd really appreciate it. And check us out at languageofmindfulness.com, where you can sign up for a free coaching session. And because we get so many questions on this,